Hello there folks, welcome back to my YouTube channel, a place where I discuss different topics like spirituality, deep introspection, uh, game analysis, and other ideas, depending on the situation. From time to time I even answer certain questions from Quora that I may find, I can actually give a useful answer that many other people can also benefit from, although I've been seeing lately that my answers are being simply deleted by the Quora because apparently they do not accept it if you have videos, on a certain channel and you're directing people there because they might consider it a funnel or whatever their reason. So for a while I may not answer questions and put my answer, there with a link to my video. I'd rather just leave it on my YouTube channel, and people, if they would actually need, they can actually view them on my YouTube channel. Feel free to ask me questions if you want a certain answer. Whatever I provide is part of my own wisdom, part of the experiences I have gone through, so take everything I say with a grain of salt, because my truths may not necessarily be applicable to yours or comparable to yours. All this being said, this video is gonna be one about self-doubt and what this would mean, what this can be, what this actually is, and how to interpret it probably, as well as, how to combat it. Now, why I said probably is because I'm kind of the person who is, a bit repulsive when it comes to meaning and attaching meaning to certain things, because meaning, if not used properly, easily becomes like a ball and chain, right? And the point about this is I simply don't want to give too much meaning to certain things, and I want to encourage people to access different parts within them and understand certain things, beyond the rationality of the mind, because the mind simply represents the first three chakras. Therefore, it's only useful, just like the five senses that we have, it's only useful for a sense of survival. Now, self-doubt is a mechanism within that kicks in when certain ideas of ours are simply compared to other things and considered not good enough. Now, this comparison is not necessarily something that is true or, equates to something that would be correct, okay? Comparisons that are done by our minds, and let's actually not focus on the comparison itself. Most of the thoughts that we have, and also most of the emotions that we feel, don't necessarily belong to us. So the point is, any comparison that the mind by itself would make, or we that would consciously end up doing, the point about that is, it's not gonna be good enough, okay? It's not gonna be a certain way, because first of all, those thoughts that this comparison would target, would require in order to be undergone, those thoughts aren't even ours. So therefore, one can actually say, if they are not yours, most likely they won't even help you that much, okay? Considering that one big problem of nowadays is that people simply aren't trained at all. People aren't trained how to use their mind. People aren't trained how to make use of their emotions. So technically, everything within us kind of ends up doing the things, by their own selves, and it's a little bit problematic in a way, because if things do, if things work by their own programming instead of creating and altering them with a personal code so that we have them work in our benefit, right? In many situations, these inner subtler parts of us can actually end up working in a contrasting way, and that's how people throughout time and throughout the centuries, they kind of have been having this dilemma, right? What should you actually listen to, your mind or your heart? Technically, these two dimensions of ourself should be, nurtured, should be taken into account, and should be trained one way or another, so that they end up working for us the way we require it, instead of allowing too much of society, parents, friends, and the such to dictate our existence through shaping our mind and our emotions, right? And of course, there is a big fight when it comes to the mind and to the emotions. The mind is very, vibrating. It always changes. It can, jump quickly from one thought to another. But on the other hand, emotions are just like sediments. And as a character of mine says it in a video game of mine that I'm working on, the point about emotions is you only feel them when there's enough of those having sedimented within you. If you simply disregard, actually not disregard, if you simply let emotions flow like a river, okay, you won't perceive them and they won't bother you, because the point about them is they will just flow. But the point is, people become attached to the emotions because they don't feel any and they believe that that's something bad, or they simply are in tune, okay, in their mind and in their internal dimensions. They attract all sort of these ideas that if you suffer, it's the new norm. If you suffer, that's okay. And you'll see this everywhere. People believe or have this belief that if they suffer, it's actually good. Suffering is the new norm, right? And they also have other sensations, other feelings, other perceptions, other beliefs that if they suffer, someone will magically pop into their lives and it will solve all their problems. Now, what is a belief in the end? A belief is nothing else than, accepting something without the necessity for proof. And this actually goes very deep down the rabbit hole. But at the same time, the problem is, even if someone would come into your life and will solve your problems, the point is, if you're not trained how to no longer create new problems, you're gonna create newer problems. And the lower certain people's awareness is, the more they will make expectations of others to solve their problems, especially if that actually happened at least once. That is why people who end up as people pleasers get to suffer a lot. But people pleasing is, or to a certain extent should be, a little part, as little part as possible in a person's development, okay, in a being's development, actually, not in a person, because a persona is nothing else than a mask, and a mask, as I've said in previous videos, is nothing else than a survival mechanism, just like the mind is and just like our senses are. Everything that is bound to this body, the mind and the five senses that we have, can be used at most for survival purposes. Once the idea of survival diminishes, okay, then the person, the being, actually the human, can actually start being more introspective, because introspection can only occur once you no longer are concerned with your own survival, right? And all these problems, when they kick in, okay, all these antitheses, okay, that appear within your, well, yes, within your mind, within your emotions, and in between these, okay, every time you get contrasting ideas and thoughts and the such, the point about certain emotions is that they will pop up, okay, you will have confusion and you will have self-doubt. From my point of view, these two are very similar. Of course, they have a similar vibration, which is, yes, different, but it is still lower, and it is also, they have a slightly different mechanic. However, they are just pinpoints that something within you is not right, okay? For example, confusion, right? One of my mentors told me that when you feel confusion, it's actually something good. You should actually rejoice, you should actually throw a party, because something within you is breaking, right? When you feel confusion, it's a good thing, because, well, when you feel confusion, something within you has started a longing. You have heard something, you have come across something, you have read something, you have seen something that has powerfully impacted a belief system within you. And again, belief is nothing else than accepting things without, questioning those, right? Without using your discerning mind. So the point about that is, well, when that idea was profoundly impacted and it's now shaky, okay, the things, okay, the thought forms that you have been creating and everything that worships that idea will still try to keep you stuck at that lower vibe. Okay, but as your awareness increases, so will the need for better ideas arise, and with this need you will become slowly and surely more introspective, because the point is you will want to become more and more introspective. Okay, that's the main point. Now, as I've presented this idea in previous videos, every time you create a new belief is that you're creating a new god in your mind. And every story that you create for, supporting that belief is just like making some preachers, right? Like some of those hooded priests, like cults. You're technically creating a cult in your mind for each and every one of your stories, right? Those stories are gonna be supported by these thought forms that you create in your mind, right? They're just like some priests who will become overt, or whatever was that word. They'll become even fanatical towards that, right? The more you channel your energy towards those thoughts, right? So it's like you're creating a god in your mind, or a goddess, whatever you want to call that, and then you're creating the supporters through your stories. And then if your mind is not trained enough, you're gonna definitely focus on that more and more, because being something that you like and also being something that you identify yourself with, you're gonna focus even more on that, because you're gonna get stuck more and more into the idea of my. And please, if interested, you can also view my previous video on the subtle English and why people use the word my, and the little perils of becoming attached too much into who and what you think you are, because whatever you think you are, whatever you think you know, is just a thought. Whatever you know, yes, it's something that to a certain extent is true for yourself, especially if you experience that. If you didn't experience that, and you're if you just accepted that blindly, or because other people told you, well, the point about that is you don't necessarily know whether it is true, so it is just a silly belief within you that it is true. Okay, you just accept it as true, but most likely if you haven't checked it yet, and you're just following it blindly, you don't know exactly if it's gonna be true for you. Now, the point about self-doubt is it will pop up when certain things, okay, are starting to break down. As your vibration increases, confusion and self-doubt will occur, because these are nothing else than a longing. Okay, the hidden mechanic behind these is nothing else than a longing. Okay, from the smallest, minutest animals to the most aware ones, okay, to the most aware beings in this universe, be it we humans on this planet or any other race, because there are alien races in this universe, and well, I may have gotten in touch with those, but don't rush in believing whatever I say without experiencing that, because if you get to believe things without experiencing them, you can actually end up fooling yourself one way or another. So whatever I have experienced metaphysically, that's something that would better remain with me. Now, all these beings and animals and whatever, from the minutest to the most advanced, these beings are actually beings who they always have this, and they will always have this longing. Now, what is this longing? This longing is nothing else than a wish. It is actually a longing. Yes, it is something within them that wants them to become even better. That's also why evolution exists, right? Evolution is a physical expression of this longing. This longing will always have any being to seek and even fight for having a better life, of course, to the amount of awareness that they have. But the point about this is every being has within them a longing to have things become even better for them. We humans also have that, even if we have strayed from ourselves for so long. We have become more and more alien towards ourselves, but there will always be things within us that will always keep trying to remind us that there are things beyond that which we know. There will always be things beyond which we know, of course, and yes, It may be difficult for many of us to understand, but indeed there are a lot of things beyond us. And nowadays we inhibit ourselves so much we won't even allow our gut feeling or our intuition to guide us. And then we ask ourselves why we are in so much self-doubt and confusion. Okay? Because self-doubt and confusion are nothing else than reminders that we are ignoring certain parts of ourselves, like our intuition. When you are connected to yourself, you are technically connecting yourself more and more to your guides and to the universe and to the guidance that the universe can provide. And once you learn how to follow the guidance of the universe, simply confusion and self-doubt are no longer existent, because these two also pinpoint attachment to certain ideas, okay, that you have accepted from others, or maybe you have proven correct to yourself. But when these two appear, it's a signal from the universe that let go of the old so that I can give you more, right? So there was this story about a person, a scientist or something like that, who they went once to a very wise person, okay, and they started talking and talking and talking, okay, and the wise person tried to let them understand a certain thing, and they tried to have them explore something within them through another point and through another point, but the other person simply kept talking and talking, right? So the wise person pulls out some, very fine wine, okay, and the other person, noticing that, well, they still kept talking, but they did notice. So the wise person took a cup and took actually two cups and put them, one for them and one for the other person, and then in the cup of the other person they actually started pouring wine, right? As the habit would be, as the custom would be, you always serve the other person first. And as they started pouring, and soon the cup overflowed, and as it overflowed, it just kept overflowing, and the wise person just kept pouring. The other person just kept talking and talking and talking until their eyes simply could no longer take it, their mind could no longer take it, and then they said, "Hey, what are you doing?" It's like, "Don't you see this wine is overflowing?" And the other person said, "Well, you came to me because you wanted some wisdom, but you're just keeping to yourself, and you're just exactly like this cup. You're already full, so how can I actually give you? You have to empty your cup before I can actually give." So, taking into account this little story, the point about self-doubt and confusion, again, they are nothing else than reminders that you need a better way. There is something within you that has to be changed, okay? There is this longing for seeking, right? You seek another way. The mind and different dimensions of your existence, those will actually still be wandering around, okay? The higher dimensions of who you are, they will always want different and better ways of expression. They will always be embracing change, because change is the only constant in this universe. But the mind is very simple, and it is only focused on survival, and once it attaches itself to certain ideas and or emotions, it believes that without those their life simply would cease to exist. Because those beings, okay, those entities, because thoughts are also entities that you acquire, okay, or you create, and you access that code of theirs, which actually enables you to feel or you to think whatever you're thinking, right? And these thought forms, as they exist, okay, these also have their own awareness to a certain extent. The more you feed them, they may become slightly more aware, okay? But when you create these, they might actually exist, at a very low vibration, especially people with little to no training of the mind and their emotions. Their vibration is usually very low because their awareness is also very low, so most likely they will be stuck at the level of survival. So survival being the only thing that they take into account, the thoughts that they create will also vibrate with them, and they will vibrate as well at that of survival. So the mind will be bombarded or overswarmed with these ideas that will also not be fulfilled, and not being fulfilled, they will want to become pure again, and to become pure they need to be led to dissipate. But having probably been given a little vibration of survival, these thoughts will manifest an idea of survival, so your mind will technically reverberate with all these thoughts, ideas of survival. So the point is, your mind and these gods that you're creating within you, as I said, these beliefs supported by these preachers, right, your stories that you're creating, all these will do nothing else than they will keep wanting to survive, because the moment you no longer support these, they feel probably, or most likely they will feel endangered, and they will feel that no longer being fed, they can finally, their higher existence, okay, or a higher vibrational part of those thoughts will embrace that, because they can finally dissipate. And just like any being in this universe, if they die, a part of them moves away and becomes again one with creation, right? But the survival instinct, the survival mechanism of that will simply piss your mind off and will constantly drag you down and will constantly want to have you think of that. And this is also being exploited by the advertisement system. They keep planting different thoughts into your mind, and even games and literally everything that gives you that dopamine rush kind of functions to a certain extent based on this, because they create all sorts of ideas and you believe that without those you simply cannot survive. So is self-doubt and also is confusion something, each of these, is it something good? Well, to a certain extent they can actually be good. Now, on a simple search on another website, I actually found a response that said, hey, you know what, many people actually supported the idea that, hey, self-doubt can actually be a very good thing, because if you doubt yourself, it means that you are becoming more aware, okay? You're becoming more aware of a lack. You require something much better that you don't have and other people can actually have. So this, if you're having sufficient, social training and you're not afraid of people like most others are, okay, self-doubt and confusion can actually make you, more social, can actually help you improve your social skills. Why? Because they might actually, when you are confused of a certain idea, you may want to seek, ideas from others. Hopefully not validation, because that's another instinct of survival. It can be vampiric, like people pleasers, they always become vampiric, because they always give so much energy to others, they need to recharge, and at a certain time they become vampiric. Self-doubt can actually help you encourage discussion, right? Asking questions, finding mentors, right? Sharpening your skills by trying different other things, right? They might make you more eager towards collaboration. They might have you try to check thinking with others, or even doubt, your ideas, right? You are gonna feel driven to improve and learn, right? As I said, sharpening your skills and question some of your beliefs as well, and shake them from their roots, and not assume, and you're probably gonna end up not assuming that you know best or they know best, right? So shaking these ideas that you are believing, right, shaking this off means that you're gonna embrace change. The moment you start shedding some of the no longer needed aspects of yourself, that's actually a very good thing, because the moment you do that, the moment you start shedding things from yourself, is the moment when magic starts happening, because newer and better things will finally be capable of reaching you. So all this being said, hopefully you like this little, not quite short, but little tutorial on confusion and self-doubt. And if you like the type of content that I'm creating, feel free to like and subscribe. Feel free to share this with others so that we help raise the awareness of others. Feel free to guide people towards my content if you think my content will help them more than you may actually be capable of helping them. In many situations people will simply disregard you, so you probably need to find someone else, right, to guide them to their senses. If that doesn't work, it's okay. Feel free to ask me questions in the comment section below and share some of the introspection that I have acquired. Feel free to embrace whatever I said to a certain point, and as I said in the beginning, don't take this necessarily or fully for granted. You are loved and appreciated. Keep becoming more introspective, and you will see that the answers that you're looking for may actually start popping up the more and more in tune you become with yourself. All these being said, you are loved and appreciated. Take care of yourself. Ferenc Board signing out.